And welcome to There's Always Next Year podcast. The studio is in fact carpeted. It is
Monday, March 13th, and let's ride.
Actually, it's funny you bring up Let's Ride. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Right back at you.
It's funny you bring up Let's Ride. I had a thought over this weekend.
What was your thought?
You know, the Broncos, say what you will. Say what you will about how bad the Broncos were last year.
Real bad.
But you tell me of a marketing slogan for any professional sports team over the last 5 years that you find more memorable than Let's Ride.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
this Bud Light. What's up?
That was certainly not in the last 5 years. Maybe in the last 20. But yes, still iconic, but also not a professional sports team.
I'm pretty sure the Royals had something. This is, again, not in the past 5 years, but the Royals had something.
It wasn't as iconic on the national scale as
Bring
Let's
back
Ride.
85 and 05. That was pretty good.
That wasn't even the Royals' best slogan.
I don't even remember that.
What was Tony? What is Nosotros pedemos? Nosotros viemos?
Vamos?
No, it wasn't Vamos.
Vamos
I don't think it was
nosotros.
Vamos. No, I think
Dora.
Jesus Christ. Whatever we believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was We Believe. That was the most iconic Royals one.
Nosotros creemos?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Still not as iconic as Let's Ride. But my proposition, my pitch to Broncos country that I will put out right now is I think you have a really good opportunity to capitalize on a new, very short, very hashtagable slogan.
What's that slogan? I'm excited to hear it, obviously.
Saddle up. Broncos country. Saddle up. It's a solid hashtag. Very relevant. Fun to say.
They're going to ride some Broncos. I mean, I guess I get it.
I mean, let's ride.
Is it not too reminiscent of last year?
It is, but it's different. Like you don't have to be that different.
Well, they need to be way different on the field than they were last year. That's for sure.
But from a marketing standpoint, they did very well last year. I think if there's anything that the Broncos team takes away that they were successful at last year, it was a good marketing slogan. Even if it was because their idiotic quarterback kept saying it when he was failing miserably, it was still a very good marketing slogan.
So who liked the Let's Ride? Broncos fans or literally anyone else?
Dude, I loved it. I use it every...
Are you a Bronco fan?
I don't mind them. I'm not a Bronco hater.
I think it's literally everyone else did because it was kind of like you're making fun of the Broncos.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Broncos country, let's ride. When they're literally losing every single game.
Use it
Russell Wilson is throwing interceptions left and right. I don't know.
You use it ironically for sure. I'm not arguing that. But for me, I still think it's fun to say.
Well, yeah.
Rolls off the tongue. Let's ride. Mike, I've seen you use it in a number of posts.
Even before the Broncos came out with that as their slogan.
I don't think you used it before that.
Mike is a trendsetter.
I don't think that's the case at all.
I think I did.
I will ask you to go back and pull up evidence of you using that.
I would use it verbally. I wouldn't actually put it on my social media.
Non-evidentiary. All right.
Oh.
Well, speaking of saddling up, I don't think you use a saddle per se in pole vaulting.
Okay.
Do you?
No, you do not.
No.
Could you?
I don't think so.
What kind of pole vaulting are we talking about?
Okay.
Saddle up. Sorry. That was a Nelly song, right?
Anyway, speaking of pole vaulting, since we saw all of a sudden got in there, I have a second gig that I do on the backside of my 9 to 5 typically, and I
Is this your third gig then?
On the backside of my 9.
First?
Well, the podcast probably comes first, so podcast would be the second gig. Pole vault coaching would be my third gig. So I
You
coach
said podcast comes first.
after my 9 to 5.
This is disappointing.
Well, we're not making much money right now on this,
I will
venture.
absolutely say I'm very disappointed in either of you if the podcast comes before your 9-to-5 job.
It doesn't come before my 9-to-5 job. That's what I was saying. It's the first one that comes after my 9-to-5 job. I don't know why this is such a hard concept for people to understand.
Adam did it. Let's move on.
It's not that hard.
Pole vaulting.
It's early.
Where does the saddle go on the pole?
There's no saddle on the pole, but I will say, like, my second venture, my third venture, or whatever, is I coach Olathe high school kids in pole vault. And what's interesting about this is Olathe wants to only pay one pole vault coach, which is fine.
I'm
It's
so
fine
excited to see where you're going with this.
For me, basically, to coach all 5 high schools in the Olathe School District.
Is this Mike's request for a raise?
We've got our home base back at Olathe North. So my job, ironically, is really just a block away from Olathe North. So I leave my job.
Why is that ironic? Oh, your career.
Yeah, my career.
Okay.
So I leave my career, my 9-to-5, and I go to Olathe North.
Do you walk?
No, I drive.
Is it just a jump and a vault away?
This is just turned into a shit show. But anyway, I leave my job. I go to pole vault practice. I coach these kids up, and honestly, we've got some really good kids this year, and I'm really excited about it. We got a really good kid who went to Olathe East last year, won the state championship. He's probably going to win it again this year. And I had 3 other kids go to state last year as well. And watch out for Olathe pole vault, because we're making moves. We're doing things that no one else has probably ever done, and we are.
No one else has probably ever done.
Probably.
And for those of our listeners that are very avid high school Kansas pole vaulters,
I will say, if you've never been to a state meet,
it is fascinating.
If you've never been to a state meet, come watch a state meet, because it's the biggest state track meet that in all of the 50 states of the United States.
Is it really?
It is.
What makes Kansas that much more prevalent than the other 50? I didn't know that.
It's the biggest state meet because you have all 1A through 6A all at the same stadium.
Okay,
competing.
typically for most sports you do it at different venues.
Correct. Yep.
Interesting. So why do they do you know why they do that for Kansas?
It's just been iconic. They've been doing it for so many years. Is it
Emporia State? Is that where they do it? It's
at Wichita State.
Wichita State.
Yep.
Okay.
And which they are just redoing their Cessna Stadium, which is where they used to have football back when they did have football.
Oh, so they haven't had football in as long as I can remember.
But now they've really redone it. It's all basically around their track team, and it's super nice.
Do they have a strong track team themselves at Wichita State?
They do have a good track team. I wouldn't say they're winning national championships every year, but they have a good track team. Yeah.
All right.
So
when is that state track championship?
It'll be
this
the
year?
last weekend in May.
Is that Memorial Day?
Usually that Monday does fall on Memorial Day.
Brutal.
Yeah. So I'll be down there in Wichita. Probably Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, coming back on Sunday. So at least I get that one day off of my 9-to-5 job. So
sure.
That way I can kind of recover a little bit from the travel, from being out in the sun for 3 days straight, basically.
Shoot, maybe I come down and meet you on Sunday in Emporia and we play a little golf or something.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. Wouldn't be opposed to that at all. So, I don't know. I feel like we move right into the dick of the week now, Adam. What you got for that?
We're jumping into dick of the week already. Well, this week's dick of the week, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, which aside from, I don't even think Matt follows me on Twitter. I think Mike just does.
No, I got those tweets.
But do you follow me?
Yeah, I don't think they would show up otherwise.
Oh, you get a lot of tweets from people that you don't follow, or at least I do, but I don't follow that many people.
I follow you.
Okay. I feel like I looked a couple weeks ago and I was a little bitter because you didn't. But
checking now.
I don't think you follow me.
It says we follow each other.
Okay, cool. But I took to Twitter over the weekend in the wee hours of Saturday going into Sunday. I was frustrated. I was upset. I bartended on Saturday night for the first time in a few weeks. Admittedly, it wasn't the best shift I've ever worked.
Okay.
I had a counterpart that maybe Got a little oversauced pre-shift and during shift. She's a sweet girl, but she kept pouring shots, and like I'm watching her, and she was including me in all of them. That was nice of her. Keeps pouring them and saying, Adam, you want one? I'm like, yeah, I'm here. So I take one, take another, keeps off. And all of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, throughout most of the night, she was a little housed. So it was a little bit of a frustrating night. I wound up closing the bar by myself. I get out of there at about 1:30, 1:45ish, which is a really good time.
That does sound
as
like
far
a good
as
time.
there is a really good time to get out. And I was psyched about it. I was like,
Because they're
all right.
open till 2, right?
Now, we usually do last call and are pretty well getting people out by 1:30, but I was on the tequila side. I was on the quieter side.
Gotcha.
So I was able to kind of get people out quicker fashion. I get done, I pop over to the other side, close out with management, do whatever, head home. Usually when I head home, I often stop by either Quick Trip or Whataburger, get a little late night snack.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten since probably 5 or 6. By this point, it's 2 or 3 typically.
Definitely need some
like,
nourishment for sure.
I go to the places that still have food that I like, so I'll usually stop there. I did not stop Saturday night. I just headed home. To be clear, I only had a handful of shots early in the night. By the time I was driving home, I was just fine to drive.
Way to make that clear.
Yeah. I figured I should provide clarification. But I get home, and typically when I get home, I get to my apartment, pretty much throw my stuff. I throw my wallet, throw my keys
on the counter, and
just right there in the little dish thing that I've got that holds that stuff right by the door. Get ready for bed, head to bed. Usually in bed within 10, 15 minutes of walking through the door. And that usually takes me about an hour to wind down. I turn on the TV, I start watching something. I look at my phone. It says 3:30.
How'd you go from 1:45 to 3:30? How did that happen?
And it takes maybe about a half hour to get home. And I'm sitting there and I'm racking my brain. I think I'm losing my mind. I'm like, where did I just lose an hour?
Right.
Like, literally, where did I just lose it?
I'll tell you where you lost it.
And I'm thinking it through. I'm like, I didn't stop anywhere to eat. I didn't stop anywhere to do anything. Like I got into bed. I know I just haven't been laying in bed for an hour and 15 minutes and just feel like it's only been 5.
Right.
I'm starting to think I'm going insane. And I'm finally like, daylight savings time.
It's daylight savings time.
Daylight savings time. So the DST is this week's DOW.
That'll get you.
Daylight savings time. You're a real bitch and a half. I took to Twitter to let you know how I felt about you. I think a total of about 26 people saw my tweets. I have a strong following, especially at 3:30 in the morning. But I had some choice words. I even hashtag D's nuts at daylight savings time.
He did. You can check the receipts on that.
But I'm excited at the proposition that daylight savings time is done. If somebody in our presidential office would go ahead and sign that fucking bill, that'd be great.
Well, it passed the House, it passed the Senate, so
I know.
now the president just needs to sign it, you know?
Right.
All he needs to do is
That's what I'm saying. Somebody
put his good old John Hancock on that paper.
put whatever he wants on it. I just need a signature.
Commonly referred to
As is John Hancock.
Oh,
as is Hancock.
I mean, dip it in ink first. But no, nevertheless, I was just frustrated. But I will say that there have been 2 silver linings that I've come to. Now, this is not due to the fact that daylight savings time exists. It's due to the fact that we sprung forward. The 2 silver linings that I've come across thus far. One, obviously, the clear one. Sun's up later. We're enjoying more daylight throughout our day. As we get off work, we have a little bit more sunshine to enjoy while we're not on the clock.
And I'm sleepy and grumpy.
And Matt is sleepy and grumpy.
I do like the later the sun's up, because that definitely helps, especially with during pole vault practice, because like the sun starts going, it did start going down around 5:30, 6 o'clock. We can get a couple extra pole vaults in, a couple extra reps, a couple extra practice. It helps us out a lot. It helps us out immensely in regard to those spring sports. And I'm sure like soccer and baseball and everyone agree with that too. But moving on with that, talking about sports.
Oh, sports.
I think
sports.
I think we're supposed to talk about sports on this podcast. I'm not 100% sure, but
nobody knows what we're doing.
We got some big college basketball games coming up, and you know why? Because it's NCAA March Madness tournament time, and the bracket just came out yesterday. For you guys listening, probably a few days ago, but
hey.
It's not coming out tomorrow, Matt.
Adam, who's your front runner right now in the NCAA men's basketball tournament?
Well, okay, so Alabama has looked really good. A number of Big 12 teams have looked competitive. Houston obviously has looked really good too, but they're a smaller conference.
Who do they play?
They haven't seen the level of competition that your SEC and your Big 12 teams have. Your ACC teams, your A10 teams, even. But I looked through the bracket tonight. I looked at the matchups, about 59 out of like 68 teams that I know nothing about. And I blindly pick this like I have a snowball's chance in hell of knowing what I'm talking about. And I don't. But based on the small amount that I've followed, Alabama, the champion of the SEC, looks good. Texas, the champion of the Big 12, looks good. I have filled out one bracket thus far, and I have Texas beating Marquette, a battle of two seeds, in the championship at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. Now, I do want to highlight that the Final Four and the championship is being played in Houston, Texas, because we have a 1 seed in Houston and a 2 seed in Texas. So I think that's worth mentioning.
It is worth mentioning. I think KU takes it all. And as much as it pains me to say that,
back to back.
I'm looking at KU's bracket right now, and they don't have many people in that bracket that they're going to be playing. I mean, let's take a look at it.
Would KU have to beat Texas in this situation?
They would have to beat Texas in the Final Four.
And what happened the last 2 games?
Bill Self wasn't there one game, and the last game...
You think Bill Self makes up that 20-point deficit
in the championship? He does score a lot of points.
I think Bill Self could coach them through a 20-point deficit. Honestly, I think they gave up a little bit.
You think Bill Self wins that championship game if he's coaching? You think he is that much of a difference maker?
Anything can happen come the Big 12 or come the NCAA tournament. I will say that. But if you're looking at KU's bracket, the top teams in that bracket are UCLA. They're the number 2 seed, which
a historically strong team.
Historically, but not recently. Historically, yes, not recently. And
they're a number 2 seed, so they're something to be.
Well, but they've played in the Pac-12. Big 12, and we've already talked about this. Big 12 has been the best conference in basketball this whole entire year. The only Big 12 team that
SEC has had strong teams, though. I don't think
not SEC, Pac-12.
Well, I know you're just saying that the Big 12 is. I think the SEC has competed at some level, and I mean Alabama obviously has a pretty strong resume. Tennessee's been a good team. Mizzou's been a good team. A&M's been decent. There are a number of good teams in the SEC as well.
I don't disagree.
I don't think the Pac-12. I will agree with you that the Pac-12 it's not at the level of either the Big 12 or the SEC.
But
I think the SEC has been pretty competitive as far as the grand scheme of things. There goes my.
They have been, but I mean, you're looking at this. You got UCLA, you got UConn, you've got TCU. And that's pretty much it in KU's bracket. I think KU makes the Final Four, and I think they make it pretty easily.
I don't think they make the Final Four this year. And it's not that I don't think that they've been a strong enough team this year. It's just so rare to see teams be like even have back-to-back Final Four appearances.
Right. I think only one team has, well, I don't know about back-to-back Final Four.
I'm just talking back-to-back.
One team has ever gone back-to-back winning the championship. I think KU, though, has the team to do it this year. And Bill Self, obviously we know, is an iconic coach. He had to miss the whole Big 12 tournament due to some
Have we gotten confirmation he's back for the NCAA tournament?
I read something on Twitter that he's definitely going to be back for the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
So I think KU's going to come through on top. I will counteract that with my team, K-State. I think they got the worst end of the draw.
Doesn't matter.
They got Purdue, they got Kentucky, and they got Duke, all in the same bracket. There's no way K-State makes it.
Duke and Kentucky are on off years.
They are.
Duke has looked not good this year.
They're still blue bloods, and they still know how to pull it together in the end.
Okay, but to that argument, you were just saying that UCLA isn't that. And UCLA is a blue blood to that argument too, though.
I would say
they are.
Yeah,
they are.
But Duke and Kentucky had to go through their conference championships and play a lot better teams than UCLA has.
Kentucky didn't do shit in the SEC. They didn't even wind up in the conference championship.
Calipari is a good coach. I don't know. It all comes down to who's your coach.
No, Kentucky hasn't been relevant in the last 3 years.
Kentucky's going to be fine. I can tell you that. And K-State's going to meet them in the second round of the tournament. So
are they?
I think they are.
K-State has not looked good recently. I don't think it's a sure. I know they're playing Montana State. I don't think it's a sure bet at all that K-State makes it out of the first round.
K-State's going to make it out of the first round. You cannot say anything to me about that.
I'm going based on the level of play I've watched them have. I'm not going as a homer or an against K-State guy.
I understand that.
I'm going based on the case study I have.
K-State's talent is way better than
I'm not arguing that. I'm talking about how they're playing right now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of teams that have been more talented than other teams that have lost.
Well, we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one, because I feel like K-State will definitely go to the second round. I don't think they're going to make a Sweet 16, though.
Okay.
Where's Mizzou going to go?
I think Mizzou certainly makes it to the second round. I think they've got Utah State beat. That being said, I looked at the betting tonight. People seem to be favoring Utah State. Maybe there's something I don't know about it, but I was looking at the betting apps and people seem to be favoring Utah State. So it's a 7 versus a 10. But as of right now, Missouri's the underdog on the sportsbook app I was looking at. That being said, I think Missouri has shown a lot of grit this year. I think they looked pretty sharp in the SEC tournament. They wound up losing to the team that became the first overall seed in the NCAA tournament. So can't scoff at that too much.
Right.
That also speaks to the level of team that they've played, the level of competition they've seen. They've seen what some would argue is the best of the best.
Right.
They've also played KU this year. So I don't think there are probably too many teams that have played two of the top four teams in the tournament. Mizzou's seen them both. Now, Mizzou looked like shit against KU. I'm not saying that they look good or they played them well. They didn't. But
they did play Alabama pretty well,
But they've played Alabama pretty well. They've beaten Tennessee twice, and Tennessee's a top 25 team.
Yep.
I think it'll be interesting. They've played Kentucky well. I think Mizzou is positioned. To me, what I've said is Mizzou has an appearance in the Sweet 16. This year is an overwhelming success for first-year Coach Gates. Obviously, I would say the same for Jerome Tang.
Yep.
Especially given expectations for both of those teams going into this season. Expectations were low. It was a transition year for both schools.
Right.
Both schools have not had a lot of overwhelming success in recent years. K-State's more been under one coach. Mizzou's kind of had a revolving door of coaches. But for me, I think it's incredibly exciting. I can't remember the last time that Mizzou, KU, and K-State were all in the NCAA tournament. You know, Mizzou hasn't been competitive, and then there were years where they were competitive, but they were on fucking punishment. Heard.
5 years ago that happened.
5 years ago? The punishment?
No, 5 years ago that Kansas State, and Mizzou made the tournament.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and probably before that, I would guess it was probably another 5 or so at least.
I bet more.
Yeah,
I'll come back with the answer in a minute.
But it's exciting for us Kansas Cityans that are surrounded by these 3 schools. It's exciting that all of us are, you know, gunning for the week, and all of our teams are top 8.
Yeah,
top 8 seeds. That's exciting too. So a lot to look forward to for all those teams, all those local teams. It was a good Big 12 tournament. I think a couple of the teams took an early departure that we maybe didn't expect to. And I would have liked to see a couple of the more local teams make a little bit deeper run. But again, building ground.
First year. Mizzou did very good in their champion.
Yeah, that wasn't played here, though, so that wasn't as exciting for me. That was down in Nashville.
Right.
Wouldn't have minded being down in Nashville for the SEC tournament, right there at Bridgestone on Broadway.
I think I saw something on the TV when Mizzou was playing Alabama in the semifinals. That was like maybe the first time Mizzou ever has made the SEC semifinals in their conference tournament.
Yes, that's probably right since they've joined SEC.
Right. It's only been,
it's been about
they've 11, only been there 10, 11 years.
10, 11 years. I would guess that's probably right, though.
Yeah.
This is the most competitive of a basketball team Missouri has had in some time. There was a lot of excitement when Michael Porter Jr. came a few years ago.
Yeah.
But he got injured. That flared out really early, and then he went to the draft, so we didn't really see the fruits of our labor on that one. It's been a number of years since Missouri has been anybody to write home about in basketball. So that's exciting.
Well, and speaking about, Missouri and the SEC and Mizzou playing Alabama. Alabama, I don't know how they did it, but they somehow overcame a lot of off the court issues and able to win that SEC championship. We'll highlight them a little bit, but like they only had 2 losses in the SEC. Basically, they played Tennessee and they played Texas A&M, and they lost to them. They were pretty close games. But they ended up beating Houston. They ended up basically taking their second SEC title in 3 years. However, I don't know how they were able to keep level heads throughout all of this, because and we kind of touched on this a little bit, I think, in an episode or 2 ago, had a former player go through and murder somebody. And that gun was provided by the SEC Player of the Year. I don't know why we're laughing.
It's just a weird lead.
Yeah, I'm so lost. We're talking
just
about
the
sports.
way you delivered it was, and he murdered someone. I'm sorry.
This is bad.
I know. I just.
God, it's so fucked.
I know I'm going to hell.
But he did. Brandon Miller provided the gun that shot this young, innocent person. How is he still allowed to play? How is he still allowed to play in the SEC championship? How is he still going to be allowed to play in the NCAA championship when this is all going down? I know no charges were brought upon him or anything, but there's got to be some oversight on this. Someone needs to be able to oversee what's going on and basically say hey, this dude's got some off the court issues that need to be addressed, and that should be happening. But instead, they're just letting him play, and he becomes the SEC Player of the Year. He's taking his team to an SEC championship, and he's taking his team to a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Number 1 overall.
You would think
Houston's number 1 overall.
School.
Oh, damn.
You would think the school had some ethics policy and other generic things that would prevent both a basketball player, a football player, a chess player from providing any murder weapons to anyone and then continuing to participate at the university level.
I agree.
Weapons is a broad term.
You're right.
Do you want me to tell you what type of weapon it was?
It was a gun.
It was a gun.
Thank you. No. You'll get no argument from me. just it was all in the delivery.
It was the delivery.
It was the delivery. I would have been fine. I don't know what made it so weird about the delivery, but something about how you said it, I just couldn't keep it together.
I was listening and I was I have the outline and I was way thrown off.
Yeah, I knew exactly what you were going into, but just the way you said it, like
maybe I didn't word it absolutely correctly, but like it's what happened. It's what happened 100%.
And the situation is this. I agree. The fact that it seems like the overall kind of alleged understanding of Brandon Miller, I did use the term alleged just to be clear, was that he was that guy. That he was the guy that if you needed to call to help take care of some business, you called him. Well, and obviously
doesn't sound like a great guy then. He shouldn't be still playing is I guess what I'm trying to say.
I'm not we know what you're trying to say and I'm not arguing with you on it. I'm saying it sounds like it was kind of more or less understood that was kind of the type of guy he was or is. And even earlier in the year, I want to say I heard a rumor that they did some dance or there was something about like keeping a Glock or something like that, or the gun guy. And with regard towards Brandon Miller, it's Brandon Miller, right? That's his
correct.
Name?
Yep.
To the point that they made a point to stop doing it after that incident occurred.
Well, at least they got that thought in their head.
I'm not touching on particular wording either. Yeah, I'm with you. It seems very questionable that Alabama, on an ethics level, has allowed him to continue to compete. I guess the question that arises based on this argument is, does he continue to compete if Alabama isn't playing at the level that they're at? Or do they take the PR move and say, yep, we're going to bench him? I think that's the natural. Is it not the natural question?
That is a good move.
Being a number one seed, winning the SEC tournament, having him be the caliber of player that he is.
Is that a decision you can make it like a halftime kind of thing? Or is that like you have to make that decision before the game, don't you? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, that decision should have been made when the allegations were brought about that he had furnished the gun to the guy that killed somebody.
Did you guys see the Twitter posts of a couple Alabama fans about killing it through the SEC?
I did not see that.
It's on the video. I hope you guys are watching on YouTube. It's pretty weird. And it's so unfortunate that sports and violence interact so much.
It is. I mean, we talked about someone last week named Ja Morant. He was flashing a gun as well.
Ja Morant?
Morant. And he beat up a 17-year-old. I mean, like, why is this that this has happened? That sports have all of a sudden become a thing
Bring Gator is Gat.
Why has sports become a thing where violence is kind of almost associated with star players?
I think that's a really broad question.
I don't think that's a new thing. I think the internet and the flow of information.
Look at O.J. Simpson.
Well, I think we already did.
The U.S. government. Yeah. He's never killed anybody.
There's a book about it if you want to read it.
I'd like to say that that's something that's new or it's going to change, but I think we know the stance on that.
Yeah.
Just at least Brandon Miller, to our knowledge, didn't kill this particular person, allegedly.
Nice being able to say allegedly he didn't do something.
Allegedly.
He hasn't been charged with any crime yet.
All right.
It's nice that Kansas or Kansas State doesn't have this burden over them this year.
Correct.
I said this year.
Yeah,
or Mizzou for that matter.
Yeah, or Mizzou. Sorry, Adam. Yeah, or Mizzou.
Mizzou's had their fair share. They were not allowed to participate in the NCAA.
Is that because they wrestled so good?
No, they'll do more than participate in the old wrestling tournament. Speaking of which, thanks for that segue. I wasn't even planning on touching on this, but for those of you wrestling fans, this weekend is the NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Missouri will be down there competing in all 10 weight classes. They're bringing wrestlers from all 10 weight classes. That's right.
That's very nice.
That's right.
Very nice.
They're coming off, speaking of conference championships, they're coming off their second consecutive Big 12 championship because Mizzou is part of the Big 12
when it comes
as
to
far
wrestling.
as wrestling. They rejoined the Big 12. The SEC does not have a wrestling conference. But Mizzou is hot off a Big 12 tournament championship, and they're looking to have a really, really strong showing. I would love if Mizzou finishes in the top 5 in the country as far as how they perform this weekend. That would be a marked success for the Mizzou wrestling team.
Who would be better than them? Iowa? Penn State?
Iowa's up there. Penn State's up there. Ohio State's competitive. Arizona State has a good program. Oklahoma State has a really good program. Iowa State's competitive. UNI, Northern Iowa's competitive. I think Northwestern maybe has a good program. There are a number of schools that are those blue bloods like we were talking about with basketball. Those are ones that come to mind for me right off the top of my head. I'm sure there are a couple that I'm forgetting, but those are a number of the schools that are going to be in it every year.
Right.
But Mizzou's right there. They're a really, really, really strong program. And they've only gotten better over the last couple of years. They're as good as they've been in a while. And as long as they had, as far as Big 12 goes, and I think there's 12 teams in the conference of the Big 12.
Okay.
Out of the 10 weight classes that they had, Mizzou had a wrestler in the championship match in 6 of 10 weight classes.
That's crazy.
So
they didn't end up winning they did win the Big 12.
They did win it.
Yeah.
They didn't have a lot of success in those championship matches. The majority of their guys did not come out on top.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
But just due to how dominant they were from start to finish in the tournament, points wise as a team, they still came out on first. I think by a decently sizable margin. And again, you've got Iowa State, you've got Oklahoma State in their division there. You've got Northern Iowa division there as well. So you've got some pretty high level competition that they've seen throughout the year. They don't see much of those Big 10 schools that are competitive up there, but they'll see most of the teams in the Midwest.
Okay, I got you. Well, and I mean, speaking of, sports that are coming to fruition right now, we got the MLB starting up in spring training.
That's right.
You can all talk about the Kansas City Royals, who are 14-2 right now in spring training. Does that mean we got a little bit of hope? Us Kansas Cityans over here, do we got some hope that we are going to be able to do anything come the regular season? Anyone?
Don't the Royals normally do historically pretty well in spring training?
They typically do decent. I'll give you some stats. You want me to read you some stats?
Please.
In 2022, we went 8-8 in the spring training, and we went 65-97 overall. So obviously that wasn't great. We went 500 in spring training though. 2021, 16-8 in spring training, 74-88 overall. So that kind of gives you a brief glimpse. So we did really well in 2021 in spring training. But
73-89.
That's what you think we're going to do?
This year, the Royals go 73-89.
I will say back in 2015, we went 20-10 in spring training, and we ended up winning the World Series.
Yeah, you were also coming off a World Series appearance.
We were.
What are you coming off last year? Firing your manager? Gutting your roster?
Real shit performance, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
But sometimes it takes that. Coming off of getting a new manager in there, getting some new blood in there as far as the players wise.
Quantraro?
Quantaro. Sorry. They call him Coach Q.
Quantuaro.
But I think there at least is a little bit of hope with the Royals. Basically, their offense is off the charts. I think our offense is going to be really well. It's all going to come down to whether our pitching can do something or not, which we just saw Brady Singer pitch in the World Baseball Classic for the United States and not do well against Mexico. So if Brady Singer, Daniel Lynch, and the boys can bring it together and maybe put in some good pitching performances, I think their offense is going to get you an average of 6 to 7 runs a game. And I think they will.
Why do the Royals seem to do way better in spring training compared to the regular season?
I think it has something to do with, in spring training, you're trying out a lot of the minor league prospects. I think our minor league prospects tend to be quite a bit better than the rest of the league's minor league prospects.
So our coaching sucks and doesn't let the newbies play?
That was the assumption throughout these past couple of years before. So they would not let they would not let the young kids come up these past couple of years. And so basically the thought was like, once they got up to the big leagues, our pitching coach wasn't very good. Our hitting coach wasn't very good. Our manager wasn't very good. Well, we got a new pitching coach this year. We got a new hitting coach this year. We got a new manager this year. So we'll see what we can do with those 3 changes in the coaching area.
You know I'm stat checking you, right?
That's fine.
6 to 7 runs a game.
Yep.
The Dodgers, who were number 1 in baseball last year, averaged 5.17 runs per game.
That's all right.
The next best, under 5. Nobody besides the Dodgers averaged more than 5 a game throughout the season.
It's a huge anomaly that the Royals are doing better in spring training compared to regular season.
It's not, because it's the spring training.
Right. And so I'm trying to dig at, like, why? What?
The Royals averaged 3.95 runs a game last season, coming in at 24th out of 32.
So Adam, is it because the Royals are trying harder? Are the batters trying harder? Is it because the other team's not trying? What is it?
So that's a good question. What I would debate is a lot of times, I don't know what the Royals are looking like they're giving up. Are they giving up very many runs a game?
Not necessarily. So like we won one game 14-2 within the past couple of games. A lot of times it is blowouts. Like it is like the Royals are scoring 9, 10, 11 to 14 runs a game, and we're letting up.
To get granular, are we seeing those days on the days where Royals are playing with a split squad?
Maybe.
Obviously, something to keep in mind is when you're playing these spring training games, you play split squad games
sometimes
where half your roster is going to one park and half your roster is going to another park.
I think for sure Adam's touching on the fact that spring training is not like the regular season.
I'm just going based on what I know about spring training. Obviously, even if you're playing full squad with just one team, there are a lot of guys that sit game to game.
Yep.
I think it's tough to deduce much like from the offensive side of things. I think it's great that the Royals are showing offensive output. I think that's great. You're going to want to see that because pitching has been a struggle for the Royals, so they need to have offensive output. The Indians are the exact opposite. They have pitching, they struggle to find offensive output. So
let's merge the Indians and the Royals together.
Absolutely.
Let's have a super team come together, and maybe, just maybe, one of these small market teams can win a World Series.
I think the Royals' offensive output is going to die when the regular season starts.
Do you?
Yes.
What is okay?
Do you think it's because of the quality of pitching they're going to be facing come the regular season?
I'm not sure.
It's just probably the quality of hitter, if that's the argument.
It's probably a little of both. Call them A,
so
call them B.
Okay, so run down. What's the Royals lineup look like? Who are their studs?
Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez. You'll have Nicky Lopez coming there.
Nicky Lopez is not an offensive threat. You could not bunch him in.
He's a threat on the base paths. We'll say that.
He's got to get on the base paths, and
MJ Melendez.
I don't even know who that is.
He's our backup catcher, but we put him
He's
in
our
right.
back, Mike.
We put him
Stop
in,
talking.
We put him in right field, though, when he's not playing catcher.
If you're arguing that your backup catcher is an offensive threat, it's time to start listing names. Yeah. Stop listing names.
How come Salvador Perez hasn't been brought up yet?
He said Salvi.
I did say Salvi.
He said Salvi.
I said Salvi.
But Vinny Pasquantino, he came in halfway through the year. He was a rookie. How proven is he?
I think he's playing with Italy in the World Baseball Classic right now, and he's already hitting bombs. So I think he's going to be fine.
Mike, he's playing with Italy during the World Baseball Classic. That's not adding to his resume. I'm talking about what is he doing in the MLB playing against MLB players.
In spring training, he's hitting bombs.
No. I'm not talking spring training. I'm talking about during the half season of regular season play that we have to go on. You listed him second as Royals offensive threats, and he has a half season of MLB play under his belt.
He's a home run hitter. He will hit home runs for you.
But is he going to get on base enough, or does he hit with guys in scoring position enough that's...
He'll probably be batting like 5th or 6th, so he'll have guys on base.
Do you know what kind of... Any idea what kind of average he had last year? Like just ballpark?
Not really.
Okay.
I want to say probably 270.
Okay. 270 is respectable. I'll take 270 for most of my guys hitting in that spot all day, as long as they're hitting for power too. But I agree with Mike. Like, after hearing that's the Royals offense, like,
you agree with Matt.
Sorry. Salvi's on the back end. I think one thing I'll say about Salvi is the fact that he had that incredible year that he had the year before last was shocking to me. One, from the standpoint of he was able to stay healthy. He's struggled to stay healthy during his career, especially over the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
The fact that he was able to stay healthy, he had that incredible home run production, but just had a really great year.
Well, during that year, it is relevant to say, like, they definitely cut down his time when he was catching and hitting. Like, they put him at DH probably...
Well, so he's hit just as much.
He's still hitting, but yeah.
Right.
They put him at DH probably like 33% of the year, and then he was catching the other 66%.
Sure. And I think that's good. I mean, his body's not built to play catcher long term. He's at a DH. Like, there are a lot of guys that have that transition. Catchers, first baseman.
Right.
That's a natural progression. Big Papi, perfect example of the same type thing. Jim Thome, perfect example of the same type thing. Frank Thomas, like, number of guys. But Witt, the Royals have high expectations for Bobby Witt. My concern is, what do you have that's proven in your prime in that lineup beyond Bobby Witt?
You don't have anyone that's proven in that lineup, and I'll say, besides Salvi, I'll say that 100%.
That's in their prime.
Okay, but you just gotta hope those young guys that you brought up, those young guys that may not be proven but may be really good, can come through and win you some games.
So give me a record prediction based on what you've seen in spring training, based on what you know. I'm saying 73 and 89.
I'm going to go 85 and, what would that be, 77?
85 and 81.
85 and 81. Yeah.
And Mike, you put some money on them winning the World Series.
I put a whole $1 down on them winning the World Series.
No, 85. No, I was wrong. That math was poor. 85 and 79. You were right the first time.
79.
You were right the
when
first time.
did Adam know or care about math?
I had to care about math because I was a banker
for a little bit.
I had to at least have fundamental knowledge, and I pride myself on my mental math ability, so I'm a little bit disappointed in myself that just happened, if I'm speaking candidly. But
it's okay. You can redeem yourself in Matt's hostile takeover.
Not
yet.
Boy.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Boy.
I just hear somebody say it, and it's
jumping the gun.
It's like
a little
Pavlov's dog, man. It's just like, ring that bell. No.
But anyway, I think the Royals are going to do good. I think we'll be fine. We just got to hope those young kids and those pitchers can get together and score some runs and shut the other team out.
And
that's
I think
all
we'll be
is.
way less than fun. But that's okay. It's baseball, baby.
I'm with Matt on this one. But speaking of local Kansas City guys, speaking of guys that love local Kansas City sports, my guy Travis Copple. Travis Copple with the Jenkins team. Real estate, local residential real estate in the Kansas City area. Travis specializes in first responders. He is a first responder himself. Really loves to be able to help that community, those that are on the front line, helping take care of us, helping keep us healthy, helping keep us not dead. Travis Copple with the Jenkins team as part of Platinum Realty. No pressure, just results. 913-961-7110. Travis has been a great sponsor of ours. We appreciate his partnership and look forward to finding ways to continue to partner with Travis and the Jenkins team with Platinum Realty. But they have been proud to present Mike's Dad Jokes. That being said, where is the Laffy Taffy?
Oh, the Laffy Taffy is downstairs. Unfortunately, we're going to have to ride with what I got today.
I didn't make this investment to not have it up here.
Well, we'll get it up here next time. I'll tell you that. But thank you, Travis. You're awesome. Also, thank you, Adam, for that awesome introduction. Let's dive right in. Why do the elephants keep getting kicked out of the pool?
I'm going to say their trunks keep falling off.
I'm going to go with Matt.
Yeah, you're darn close. I was just going to say, well, they just keep dropping their trunks. But I think Matt wins the points on that one.
Close enough.
All right. How can you get 4 suits for $1?
Something about a quarter, I would have to guess. And I would say only buy a quarter of them. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, you just buy a deck of cards, guys.
Explain.
4 suits and a deck of cards.
But what's determining that the deck of cards only costs $1?
Yeah, it's way more than $1.
Just reading the joke.
You knew it wasn't going to be that easy.
I laughed internally.
What do cars eat?
Cara?
Cars.
Oh, cars.
What do cars eat on their toast?
Butter.
I don't know.
Traffic jam.
Okay.
Really should have had some Laffy Taffy up here.
All right, what's the next one?
There is no more. That was 3. Also, Matt got mad at me for eating Laffy Taffy while I was trying to talk on the podcast last week. So, I'm not allowed to eat Laffy Taffy while I talk on the podcast anymore.
I just won't give you any.
Had nothing to do with that being present.
We'll ration you after the episode. All right. So we've talked a number of sports recently, but we haven't gotten into football yet. And today, NFL free agency did open. Matt's excited about it.
Obviously.
But
I love football.
I think Aaron Rodgers is excited about it. Derek Carr definitely was excited about it. Number of guys. The quarterback carousel that we were kind of projecting a few weeks ago, we've seen a lot of these guys find landing spots. Derek Carr went to the Saints. I thought it was really funny because I saw a I'm a Derek Carr guy. I like Derek Carr. But I saw a side-by-side comparison of all of the Saints quarterback statistics next to Derek Carr's statistics during the 2022 season, and they pretty well mirrored each other.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're getting what they already had, basically.
If Carr plays the same way he did last year, yes.
Okay.
Today we learned, and it was kind of funny because I was thinking to myself this afternoon, I was like, Vegas seems like the natural landing spot for Jimmy G. And then I go look at my phone later and I see a message from you on our group that says Jimmy G to the Raiders on a 3-year deal. I wasn't surprised to see that. That was a natural move to me. I think it was understood that he was headed out of San Francisco.
Yes.
San Francisco already figured out today who they were going to replace that roster spot with. Sam Darnold signs with the Niners. I'm assuming he's maybe going to try to compete for a second string job. I don't know.
It's got to be compete for a second string, if not just be the third string. You got Trey Lance over there. You got Brock Purdy over there.
Right.
Brock Purdy took you to an NFC championship game.
Brock Purdy, we're going to see what his status is come training camp. He did have that successful UCL surgery I saw earlier this week.
Yep.
The return timetable is 6 months on that. So it'll be a while.
That'll be cutting it close to the start of the regular season.
Lamar Jackson gets non-exclusive franchise tagged by the Ravens, which is a little bit interesting. That means that other teams have the capability of matching the offer and signing him. But the risk that they run with that is they have to give up 2 first-round picks if they sign him. To me, that doesn't make sense. Because with that deal particularly, you're only getting him guaranteed for 1 year. I'm not giving up 2 first-round picks for 1 season with Lamar Jackson.
But it seems like the rest of the owners may have came together and said, like, we're not going to give out guaranteed money like the Browns did to Deshaun Watson to any other quarterback in the league. And so that's why I think a lot of the teams that you would think Lamar Jackson may be trying to go to, they have not been trying to go get him.
Well,
they've not been throwing numbers, throwing anything out there to try.
All these teams know that unless some team decides right now, all right, I'm going to bite the bullet and give up these 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
And pay him whatever this franchise tag is. The only way that makes sense for any of these teams is if they then turn and get him to a long-term extension. That's the only way. Because otherwise, it does not make sense. Like, you're not going to give up that much to know that you're going to have him for 1 year. Like,
I agree, 100% agree.
I think these teams just know they've got to wait out the clock and say, all right, Lamar's going to be in Baltimore for 1 more year. And if we want to make our play after that, we will.
That makes sense. And I think if a team would want to try and go for him, I think Atlanta would be that team. I know they just drafted a quarterback last year in the 3rd round, but he played a couple games this past year, maybe did not have the best results. Desmond Ridder, is that right? He
was the guy that they drafted last year. I think Matt O'Neill said 3rd round.
3rd round. So I could see maybe Atlanta trying to make a play at Lamar Jackson, but I don't think they're going to be able to pull that through. I think your hunch that they're going to wait 1 more year could be accurate.
I can't see it going any other way. Like, just based on how the landscape is set, based on what teams have to give up, it just doesn't make sense to me. Knowing that he will be an unrestricted free agent next year, that they cannot just franchise tag. Then we got the trade that many were expecting. We didn't know who it was going to go to. Yeah. But we knew there was a good chance that the Bears were going to deal that 1st overall pick.
And boy, did they make a deal.
Can I just say, Ryan Poles.
Congrats to the Bears.
And the Chicago Bears for being a franchise that just consistently does shit wrong. Boy, 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and your new number 1 wide receiver in DJ Moore. Great haul for that 1st overall pick. I would love to see them trade down a little bit further and capitalize even more on that 1st overall pick and be able to show, hey, we earned 3 additional 1st-round picks and 3 additional 2nd-round picks or whatever, and DJ Moore. Like, I think they're going to... I'm just very impressed with the capital that they were able to bring back in that deal lot of credit to the Bears front office.
I do think that is a good move. Obviously, this move that they just made, trading that first overall pick, was a great move. But I think they're at like number 7 or 8 or 9 or something. I want to say it's right
8.
Now.
I think it's 8.
But if they trade that number, if it's number 8, trade that number 8 spot, move even further down, you can still get a very good offensive lineman in the first round and gain a couple more picks throughout this entire draft. So, like, I know the Bears sucked last year. Obviously, that's why they had the number 1 overall pick. But if they can trade down, get a couple offensive linemen to protect Justin Fields. Justin Fields just got his number 1 wide receiver in DJ Moore, as we talked about. I really think they could be on the upswing. They could be competing with Detroit. They can be competing with those other teams in that NFC conference to make a playoff push, make a really strong playoff push. But congrats to the Bears. Who do we think, upon this whole quarterback carousel that we talked about, is going to have the greatest impact?
No, we forgot to talk about one.
Well, but we think it's a done deal.
I'm saying it's a done deal. Right. I am saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to the New York Football Jets. I don't know why I said football Jets. That's the only fucking Jets.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Winnipeg Jets, but they're not from New York. I think Aaron Rodgers is headed there. I think, like, the Packers, I think he's headed there, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see what level he plays at, because he looked like shit last year, and he was the MVP the 2 years prior.
I don't think he wanted to be there last year. I think he just was playing. I mean, he was just going out there playing the game because he was like, I'm not happy here. I'm not happy where I'm at. Hence why he probably went to a dark room for 4 days.
I don't know anybody happy that says I'm going to go spend time in the dark for 4 days to try to find. Nobody's really celebrating life when they're like, yeah, I'm just going to lock myself in a room.
Yeah.
Like I deal with shit, and want to know what I do when I deal with shit? I stay at home with the fucking lights off. Sorry. So hope I didn't get too dark there. Like, I don't.
You stay at home in the dark.
Yeah. I might turn on something on Netflix, but I sit in my bed by myself. Like, yeah. I think that's a pretty common and natural way of dealing with things. So, like, not to get too deep on it, but I don't think that's a great sign whenever you see anybody. But it's a little weird when you announce it. Like, if I'm doing it, I'm like, all right, I'm just not going to answer my texts or calls.
Right.
But I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and he's going to be guns blazing. I think the Jets are going to compete for the AFC East. I think they're going to be better than the Patriots. I think they're going to be better than the Dolphins. I think they could be better than the Bills. I think the Bills regressed last year. I expected the Bills to have a big year. They did not. Josh Allen, I still think we'll see how he comes out looking next year. But with that elbow, I still have grave concerns.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get into a big prophecy about what we think is going to happen with the NFL with every team or with every division. But to get back to your point, as far as what you were asking, what player do I think is going to have the most impact? I do think it'll be Derek Carr. I do think it'll be Aaron Rodgers.
I can see that. Aaron Rodgers going into that offense brings a whole new level to them. You got Breece Hall coming back after an ACL tear last year. Their star running back who came out of Iowa State. He's going to be back. He's going to be healthy. He's going to be ready to go. Then you talk about you got Sauce Gardner on the other side. The defense is going to be good for the Jets as well. So Aaron Rodgers with a solid defense, Aaron Rodgers with a solid running back behind him, Aaron Rodgers with some of those top wide receivers that they got over there, he's going to be making a difference. He's going to be helping them get through. And I agree with Adam. I think they're going to be better than the Bills. I don't think Josh Allen is who we all thought he was. I think Josh Allen is just like Lamar Jackson was probably 4 or 5 years ago. It all was talking about who's going to be the next Peyton Manning and Tom Brady? Who's going to be that next talked about quarterback duel that was going on every single year? Well, I think it's always Patrick Mahomes. It's always going to be Patrick Mahomes. But honestly, who wouldn't love to see a Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers AFC Championship game next year?
I'm going to take the other side of the coin, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be even more irrelevant than the last year.
Just because he's going to the Jets or what?
I think he's done.
I think he's just saying he's regressed. Okay. Now, the one argument I would make is I think he's surrounded with a lot more talent with the Jets. So even if he regressed further, I don't think he might look as bad because he's just got a lot of talent on him.
You're right. He might look better this year, but I don't think it's going to be like
it's not going to be better. Due to him. Right.
Correct.
Okay.
I will say the AFC East is going to be a lot to handle next year. You got the Dolphins, they still got Tyreek Hill, they still got Jalen Waddle, but they just signed a big defensive back.
Over the hill.
You think so?
Did you? I love that Pickwise tweeted this, and they said before the Jalen Ramsey contract, the odds on the Dolphins were plus 3,000 to win the Super Bowl. After the Jalen Ramsey signing, still plus 3,000.
Okay.
No impact.
I'm not saying that Jalen Ramsey hasn't been a stud player and that he will likely be a Hall of Fame player. I think he's on the back end of his career, and I don't think that's a terribly impactful signing. I think he might have some good games, and he is definitely a playmaker. But I think it's kind of like the Patrick Peterson move that we saw earlier today.
Right.
I think the better years of these guys' careers are behind them. That being said, you like having veteran guys who have played at a high level for a long time.
Right.
The Chiefs have shown that there's value in that with guys that they've signed. Carlos Dunlap this year being the most recent one. But a number of guys, Terrell Suggs also comes to mind. I don't hate it, but
Ed Reed too. We signed him for a year.
Ed Reed? I don't think that's right. I don't think you guys had Ed Reed. I think you're mistaken. Patrick Surtain, I remember. You guys, I don't think Ed Reed was ever with the Chiefs. Are you searching?
I don't look at me.
Okay.
This is Mike's doing.
I don't think Ed Reed was ever a Chief.
Read the comments below. I will make Mike comment on the YouTube video.
This is why we need a fact checker. We need a fact checker in here.
Yeah, this is excellent because we'll make Mike be the fact checker of himself. This is great.
Oh.
And now.
Nope, not time yet. We still got one more thing to talk about with football.
This is stupid.
And I want to talk about it because St. Louis has been without a football team ever since Stan Kroenke took the Rams from St. Louis out to the Sunshine State in California. But now, the XFL has reignited football in that St. Louis area. And guess what? The Battlehawks are bringing it very hard. And they had 40,000 people, damn near 40,000 people in the stands for their first Battlehawks game in the XFL. They were able to pull out a victory there yesterday in St. Louis in the Dome, and it was just amazing to see all those fans out there obviously wanting football back in the St. Louis area. And I mean, there was a chant that started coming about basically saying, Kroenke sucks. Kroenke sucks, because those fans out in St. Louis, it's a football town. It is a football town. And obviously if you got 40,000 people showing up for an XFL game, that's amazing, because every other stadium is barely making it. They're barely getting half of the crowd sold out, but this crowd in St. Louis, it was sold out for sure.
This is the old Rams Stadium?
I think they are playing in the old Rams Stadium.
I'm guessing they have the upper level closed off.
They do have the upper level closed off. It's just the lower levels.
Yeah, then you know what? That's phenomenal. Like, credit to them. Credit to the city of St. Louis. It's a sports town. It's always been a sports town. I know that the Rams didn't have the wildest following when they left, but credit to Battlehawk Nation.
Heck yeah.
But never mind.
You know what's great about the XFL though too is the beer snakes are back. The beer snakes are back. I saw an XFL game. It was not the Battlehawks game, but I saw an XFL game where the beer snake was going all the way from the front row up to the second mid-level story, and they were able to basically. I mean, you're going up probably. Man, I don't want to speculate here, but I'm going to say you're going up probably.
You speculate with wild theories with everything you say.
Yeah, but not the damn beer snakes, all right?
If you know, I mean, like if you can picture a stadium, picture seating in a stadium, you're going up probably 70, 80 floors of a, not floors, but 70, 80 seat levels.
Seat levels.
And now.
Boy, he doesn't want to speculate. And now it's time for Matt's hostile takeover. Let's go.
All right, unlike Mike, I'm ready to speculate wildly here, okay? History is in the making this week, and we have had not only the second, but the third as well, biggest bank failure in United States of America history. And thankfully, we have a banker with us to help provide a little bit of context. But I think what is most fascinating, what is most fascinating with a bank failure is everyone's so quick to bring up how the FDIC insurance is right there to insure you to $250,000. And don't mind the fact that that number hasn't changed in tens of 20s of years, and we haven't experienced wild swings of inflation. But don't worry, to the individual banker customer, you're okay with $250K, right?
Yes, 100%.
Well, Silicon Valley Bank is a bank, as you might guess, for Silicon Valley customers, companies. And they invested way more than $250,000. We're talking about companies that pay hundreds of engineers like $250,000 a year. So if you can imagine the balance that one of these companies might have in a bank like this, it's going to well exceed $250,000.
Makes sense.
And the craziest part of like, what is a bank failure? All it is a bunch of FUD, a bunch of fear, a bunch of give me my money now, I'm not sure you have it.
You're not wrong. And as we're sitting here talking about this, I know we were discussing it a little bit before the episode. One thing that comes to mind for me is during 2008, the FDIC, I think, was bailing out a lot of banks in unprecedented both numbers of banks and dollar amounts of the level they were bailing these banks out at. And I don't know, in 2008 I was 17 years old, so I didn't fully grasp everything that was happening with the economy collapse and the housing market collapse at the time. But as I think about it, and the FDIC committing to
bail out more money,
bailing out in full, fully insuring the full asset balance sheet that Silicon Valley Bank held. The first thing that comes to mind to me is the fact that, okay, so since 2008 and since they've been bailing out, that's been 15 years. Typically, these bank insurance policies and stuff like that have got a loss reserve in place. Now, I'm certain that banks have failed that have been FDIC insured during that time, but there haven't been a lot of large collapses or failures, and it hasn't been a widespread issue during that time. Right. I'm curious if the FDIC has almost built up that reserve for for bank failure loss over the last 15 years to the point where maybe it's a little bit more relevant.
So I don't think they have. And what's really fascinating is over the weekend, the feds were continuing to make statements. They were busy working this last weekend, okay?
Okay.
Friday, banking hours, blah, blah, blah. Friday, no. The federal government was working hard this past weekend trying to figure out stuff.
Well, they should every fucking once in a while.
Yeah, every once in a while. That's right. And this weekend, Sunday, they announced and they committed to fulfilling not $250K like insurance per depositor, but 100% of all funds in this bank. And at the same time, they made the same statement saying, and the taxpayer will not be on the receiving end of this bill.
The taxpayer being
us.
Where's the money coming from then? That's the big question.
I think it's too early to tell for sure. It's wild what's happening. I think this being on the heels of the COVID pandemic, inflation, giant payments to everyone.
To be fair, I don't believe that the COVID money came from the FDIC.
No.
I don't think those were FDIC specific funds.
Absolutely not. No. But again, it's the federal government, and
right.
Everyone has the 2008 banking crisis on mind.
Right.
Federal government stepping in and being like, no, everything's fine. And the wildest, and I still haven't wrapped my head around it, which is huge, by the way. I might add, it's gigantic.
Okay.
But like,
just look at the size of it.
This bank is apparently failing on some kind of bond investments.
Well,
which bonds are supposed to be the conservative, safe, never lose investment. But the crazy part has been because they've made these commitments to invest on like 1.5%, 2%, something like that.
The yield is almost not, it's not even keeping up with inflation.
It's not keeping up with inflation. And I think somehow through these ultra conservative investments they've made, that suddenly they're actually losing money because everyone else is doing better than them.
So it's out of whack. So
something is so wild, I don't fully understand it.
To me, the first question I'd ask is, I'd kind of look at, I assume, like, I can only guess that they've got to have a board of directors.
And they suck.
Yeah. I kind of assume
where we're going
that somebody walks in the room and says, what the fuck have you been doing?
It's just like FTX.
Do you have a background in accounting? Do you understand how a balance sheet works? I don't have a background in accounting, but I understand how a balance sheet works on a very, very, very basic level. I have never run my own business, nor do I claim to be an entrepreneur or somebody who's really sharp in that. But what I can say is this. When you have loans and are lending out dollars to tech startups and highly volatile markets, and the investments you're putting your existing deposit assets in are yielding 1% to 2%,
that doesn't sound good.
Your loan loss ratio is going to be high. You're not a conservative bank. You're not loaning out to conservative lending opportunities. You're loaning out an aggressive
startups that may not ever come off the ground.
You're loaning out, to aggressive ventures in an aggressive industry. And you have, like, I just do not understand it. And it, like, do we know how long Silicon Valley, did you say how long it's been around?
Since like 2001.
Okay, so it's about 20 years old. I would guess in the last 5 or 6 years, they have grown exponentially. That would be my guess. Their asset size, because I think they're about 200 billion in assets, is what I'd read.
Yeah.
I would guess that their asset size has grown exponentially over the last 5 to 6 years. And they had a board of directors that probably remained relatively in place still there.
relatively old.
Maybe not. Maybe just people that just were thrown on because it was a small bank at the time. And they were like, hell yeah, I'll be on a board of directors. Right. Not knowing or fully grasping the impact of the role that they carried. And as the bank grew through either acquisition or just through investor growth, that I'm guessing that they didn't up their bylaws, they didn't up their awareness that governed the expectations of that board of directors and maybe C-level executives as well within the company. To me, this has got to just be a failure top to bottom based on how they were capitalized.
It sounds like a failure to me, for sure.
It's not a good scene for anybody affiliated with Silicon Valley Bank right now, and this is just another telling tale of
I'll try and update us next week.
Lack of management.
The craziest part about it is suddenly the federal government stepped in and said, no, we'll insure way more than $250,000 per depositor. All of it. We got you guys. And to my surprise this morning, the stock market did not tank, which I was kind of expecting at least a decent hit. But it's kind of one of those things, if you give the bad news with a little bit of time, you present the news Saturday, a little bit Sunday. By the time Monday comes around, investors are feeling a little safer about the world.
Checks out.
No, 100%. That makes sense.
That definitely checks out. And I'm interested to see when we check in on this next week or as we learn more information. I'm interested to see how it plays out because I hope and think that this probably won't be the last that we see of this. And I hope it's the last that we see as far as a bank failing due to poor investment strategy. But I don't think it'll be the last we hear of at least this particular failure.
I just hope my bank doesn't fail. PNC, don't fail.
I think PNC, just from what I know, is maybe a little more diversified appropriately.
I like that.
And with that, we bless you. We leave you. We wish you only the best and your pet pics. Follow us. Instagram. There's always next your pod. Twitty _TANY _pod. Facebook. There's always next your podcast. TikTok, Mike, you have until next week to figure it the fuck out.
Will do.
And with that, remember just one thing. Matt needs to go to the bathroom.
Hey
just
guys,
go ahead. You can walk across now.
Don't forget, there's always next year.
Cara. Shawty is a eeny, meeny, miny, mo lover. Shawty is a eeny, meeny, miny, mo lover.